What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Dingleberry. I'm back again. I know it's been a few months, and I apologize. You know I love y'all. I've been struggling with getting on my feet financially. I'm finally to that point, and it's time to start uploading again. I'm starting a new series on this channel as of today. I'm referring to this one as 1994, a bore. I will be reviewing pay-per-views from the WWF and WCW from January to December of 1994. WWF held 5, the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. WCW held 7, that being Super Bowl in February, Spring Stampede in April, Slamboree in May, Bash at the Beach in July, Fall Brawl in September, Halloween Havoc in October, and Starrcade in December. And I'm just going to jump right into it here. The 1994 Royal Rumble is my first video on the on this review, and it emanated from the Providence Civic Center in Providence, Rhode Island on Saturday, that's right, Saturday, January the 22nd, 1994, to a sold-out crowd in the Providence Civic Center. There were 2 commentary teams, technically, for the show. At the time, the WWF was broadcasting on pay-per-view, and for those that for the people that couldn't watch on pay-per-view, there was WWF Radio, which was basically like sportscasting. They would broadcast a show via a specific radio channel for those that couldn't watch but would rather listen. So the commentary team that you would hear for the majority of the night, with the exception of one match on the pay-per-view side of things, was Vince McMahon and the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase. The radio WWF crew would be Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon. The opening matchup is Tatanka taking on Bam Bam Bigelow. An interesting matchup here. Bam Bam Bigelow's 297, Tatanka's 249, so there's a 48-pound weight difference. It's not a big man versus small man match. I'd consider this more of a big man versus a smaller man match, if that makes any sense. Originally, though, this match was scheduled to be Tatanka versus Ludwig Borga, but Ludwig had an ankle injury at the time that prevented him from wrestling at this event. So his replacement in this night is Bam Bam Bigelow, and he's not the first replacement you'll see. You'll see 3 of them alone in the Royal Rumble match. I'll get to that in a little bit. Not too much to talk about in this match. It was an alright matchup. Tatanka comes out first. Bam Bam Bigelow is introduced after him. He's accompanied by Luna Vachon. The referee for this matchup, I believe, is Joey Morella. Like I said, pretty okay matchup. There's not a lot of high moments, but then again, you know, Bam Bam Bigelow is athletic, so is Tatanka, but they both had their own specific repertoire, and it's a pretty entertaining matchup for what it is. For a match that was basically scripted on the fly, you know, there was no planning ahead of time. This was not the scheduled matchup. It worked out okay. There's a spot early on in the matchup, like within the first minute actually, that produces a near fall, and I popped huge for it. Tatanka goes for a running crossbody, knocks Bam Bam off his feet and gets a 2 count. I thought that was a great spot. A little bit later on in the matchup, we have a bear hug that feels like it's been on for an eternity. Like he goes up for the bear hug, and Tatanka's supposed to wrap his legs around his body, but he can't get up there to do it, so he drops to the mat on his feet, and Bam Bam squeezes his lower back, and it looks awkward, and that is on for forever. It's got to be on for 2 or 3 minutes. It's on for a long time. Tatanka fights out, makes his big fire comeback. There's a spot a little bit later on in the matchup, and I love this spot. It's a classic. I was born in '94. I grew up, you know, watching wrestling in the latter part of the Attitude Era, and my earliest memories are from like 2000 all the way through like 2006 and all the way up until I got much older and more intelligent. And it's a double crossbody spot. Both men come off the ropes, bam, collide in midair with the crossbody, hit the mat to a double down. I love that spot. It's a classic. Bam Bam Bigelow gets up pretty quickly. He doesn't even get to a 9 count. It's like Bam Bam Bigelow's up by like 3 or 4. Boom, he's right up. We go right back into the matchup, and they fight some more. Tatanka goes up to the top rope, nails Bam Bam with a crossbody, and that's the finish. That's the match. 3 count, Tatanka wins. I gave it 2 stars out of 4. Not a bad wrestling match, not a particularly good wrestling match, somewhere right in the middle. A pretty solid opening to the show. We move on next to the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Championship matchup as the Quebecers defend against the Brothers Hart, that being Bret and Owen. There's a little bit of backstory that's played before this match, but it does not involve the Hart brothers. It's all about the Quebecers losing and regaining the tag team title. So 2 weeks before the show on Raw, Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid teamed up to win the tag team titles from the Quebecers on an episode of Raw. The following week, the go-home to this particular show on January the 17th in '94, in Madison Square Garden, the Quebecers would win the championships right back from Marty Jannetty and the 1-2-3 Kid. You may ask yourself, but why would they win the titles right back? What was the purpose of having the titles change? Apparently, the 1-2-3 Kid had suffered a knee injury, and he had to drop the tag team titles because he couldn't wrestle. He needed some time to recover, so the Quebecers won the championships back. At least that's from my understanding of the story. But there's also a sub-story going on here, and strangely enough, I don't believe the tag match suffers from it. We all know, Survivor Series 1993, the Hart brothers teamed up to take on Team Shawn Michaels, which was originally scheduled to be the King in his court, but Shawn Michaels took the King's place because the King couldn't wrestle. And at that event, Owen was the only one eliminated. And he came back, it seemed to celebrate, and he pulled Bret off the top rope and yelled at him, challenged him to a fight. Bret told him he wouldn't fight his brother, etc. Owen made up with Bret for it, and they seemed to be ready to take on the Quebecers and win the tag team titles together. The main story being told here is that Owen, not only is he frustrated with his brother Bret, but he had never won a championship in the WWF yet, and this was the first championship he was looking to win. It was the biggest night of his career. Can he pull it off? We're about to find out. This was a very good tag team match, and seeing a match like this makes me miss what tag team wrestling used to be. Like, if you look at the tag team product now compared to what it was back then, and even in the beginning days of the Attitude Era and some in the Ruthless Aggression Era, it really makes you sad that the tag team division has been treated the way it has in recent memory. Seeing a tag team match like this, while it's not perfect, definitely shows you that tag team wrestling at one point or another meant something to the wrestling business. There's a lot to talk about in this matchup. First, I'm going to talk about Owen Hart's attire. In the 1993 Survivor Series, I believe he had the pink, solid pink with the black. It's reversed at this event. He had the solid black, like the Hart family symbol, the solid black singlet with a pink trim. And that was interesting because Bret Hart also debuted a different attire that night, but it had like a white paint splatter on his normal singlet. It was weird. And Owen had like the short leg singlet, came up to his upper thigh and cut off, and it was black. Which I think was a good indication of something, was going to happen with Owen's career. He was going to take a turn for the heel side of things, given the way it looked. Bret Hart scores 4 near falls in the matter of like 45 seconds in this matchup. It's boom, 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 boom. And, Bret in the interview before this talks about how Owen is the aerial expert and he is the technical expert, and he's right. Their styles mesh very well, whether they're teaming together or wrestling. Their styles are very good together. Owen takes to the ropes a lot. Like, he's a technical wrestler, but he is more of the speed-based wrestler, high flyer. He always was. Bret Hart's a little bit more ground and pound, technical guy, and I think they work really good as a tag team. I do want to comment on the Quebecers, though. They're managed by Johnny Polo here. Raven in the WWF before he was ever Raven. Holy crap, I saw him and I could not believe it was him. But sure enough, Johnny Polo was Raven. It was great to see that. The Quebecers here, that's Jacques and Pierre, were wrestling this match as a tag team should, if that makes any sense. There are a lot of moments in this matchup where, like, they'll utilize the referee's 5 count to their advantage, or one of them the legal man will distract the referee with faking an injury or trying to take something off or target one of the other wrestlers in the matchup when they shouldn't be, while the other one is just choking away at one of the other guys in the ropes, usually Bret, because Owen hardly gets any time in this matchup, which contributes to the overall story of this match. And the story in this matchup is that Bret is thrown over the top rope in the match, and he hits the floor pretty hard, and his knee bangs against the barricade. And at the time, they had like the steel barricade. They didn't have the ones that we have today. And Bret's knee just smashes into that, and from that moment on, it's all about that knee. And that's another thing. The Quebecers target the injured limb very well. They make frequent tags in and out. The Harts tag in and out a couple of times pretty quick, but over the course of the match, Bret gets more and more time in the ring. Owen gets more and more time out, and that helps contribute to the overall story and finish of this match. They really are working as a great tag team here. I think that even though the match finish is the way that it is, I think this is a great matchup. They wrestle for a little bit longer, and we get to the point in the match, we're like 20, maybe 22 minutes in, and there's a spot in the match where Bret goes for the sharpshooter on Jacques, who's the legal brother. I believe Jacques is the legal man. And this is after they go for their tag team finisher, which was Pierre would go on the top rope. Jacques would grab a hold of his hands and he'd just whip him, and he'd do like a somersault leg drop. They went for that on Bret's knee. Bret moves out of the way, and he goes to put the sharpshooter on Pierre, but he can't quite get it on. And the entire time, Owen's got his hand out reaching for a tag, and Bret won't tag him. He puts the sharpshooter on. He can't hold him down. He collapses, rolls over on his back, and the referee, which is Tim White, just calls the match. of all the near falls in this matchup, the technical masterpieces of the match, it's kind of a shame that the match ends the way it does, but it's not. It doesn't hurt as much as a lot of people think it does for me. This is still a great tag team match. I think that even with that finish, I think this match tells a great story, and I think it does what it needs to do. And even still, that finish does contribute big time to not only the story later on in the night, but moving forward to WrestleMania, which is what a match on the Royal Rumble should do. So, this is this is almost a perfect match. It's 3 out of 4 stars. I love it. And after the matchup, Owen Hart would be screaming at Bret. He's irate. The match is stopped. They could have been tag team champions, but Bret wouldn't tag Owen. Owen's mad. He's looking Bret in the eye. Why didn't you tag me? I knew you had a hurt leg. All you had to do was tag me. All you had to do was tag me. And Bret's saying, don't worry about it. I got it. It's okay. We'll get him. And, they're arguing a little bit more. And if you listen closely on the audio, you can hear, kick my leg. Bret tells Owen to kick his leg. Owen kicks it. Owen kicks Bret Hart's leg out from under his leg. You'll see what I'm talking about there in a minute. And, everybody's booing. Oh, boo, that dastardly heel. Owen Hart turned his back on his brother. Boo. I think it's great. Owen has a point. And Ted DiBiase brings this up multiple times. Owen woke up. His brother was selfish. He had the opportunity to tag his brother, but he wanted to hog the limelight one more time and try to win the match for himself and for his team. When he was hurt, all he had to do was tag Owen, and he didn't do it. Owen's irate. He's furious. There's a spot. He goes back and he gets interviewed by Todd Pettengill, and Todd is asking the same question. Why did you turn your back on your brother? And Owen tells him in so many words that Bret was a selfish person. All you had to do, Bret, was tag me. I knew your leg was hurt. All you had to do was tag me and let me win the match. Why didn't you just tag me? Because you're too dang selfish. It was the birth of heel Owen Hart, and it was beautiful. This would, of course, lead to their match at WrestleMania 10, and eventually Owen Hart's King of the Ring victory at King of the Ring 1994. Next up, we have the Intercontinental Championship on the line. Razor Ramon defends against IRS. Now this is where I talked about earlier, where the commentary teams are flipped for the night, just for this match. Vince McMahon and Ted DiBiase take a break from calling this match, and they go over to the radio WWF crew, Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon. And during the introductions, Jim Ross and Gorilla Monsoon, both faces, are talking about what Owen Hart had done to Bret and how dastardly it was that he turned his back on his brother, etc., etc. And there is some backstory in this matchup, but there's no hype package for it. JR does a good job, though, during the match of explaining it on commentary. Basically, the story goes that Shawn Michaels was the Intercontinental Champion towards the end of 1993. He was at the Survivor Series. In December, I think he got suspended in December of 93, and he had to drop the belt due to a suspension. And as the story goes, there was a 30-man battle royal on Raw early in December or early in January of 94. And both Razor Ramon and IRS were left in that matchup, were left standing. So they had a one-on-one match the following week on Raw that was won by Razor Ramon to be crowned the Intercontinental Champion. So that leads us to this match. IRS wants revenge. He wants to get a chance to win the title that he believes is fair, so we go into this matchup here. It's not anything spectacular. There is Shawn Michaels' involvement towards the end of the match. Really, the only thing of note besides that to talk about in this match is the rest hold. There is a reverse chin lock on applied by IRS for the longest time. There's a lot of rest holds that are applied for a while in this night. And, of course, he's doing one thing differently that Bam Bam didn't do. He's using the fact that the referee can't really see his feet to his advantage. He's got him down on the mat, all his weight, and then he puts his feet on the bottom rope to get the extra leverage. I've always loved that. A good heel knowing how to utilize that count is great. A good heel that knows how to use that spot to his advantage is amazing. He doesn't get caught. Eventually, Razor fights out of it. The will of the crowd gets him back into the match, etc. And Razor makes his fiery comeback as usual. And then we have a ref bump, and a couple of seconds later, Shawn Michaels, the uncrowned Intercontinental Champion in his eyes, comes down, wham, nails Razor in the back of the neck with his belt. Razor rolls over on his back. This is after Razor had hit the Razor's Edge, or had hit a move to go for the 3 count. We thought he has the match won. There's no ref. He tries to wake the ref up. Shawn runs in, bam, hits him in the back of the neck, knocks him unconscious. He rolls over on his back. IRS rolls over, covers, pins, and Joey Morella makes the 3. Now, the weird thing about that finish is that there's no bell. IRS is not officially declared the winner, but he does grab the belt and celebrate with it. Jack Tunney Earl Hebner comes out to the ring. While Earl Hebner's out there, he tells Joey Morella that it's night. That can't be right. There was an extra title. Shawn Michaels got involved when he was down. He hit Razor with the title, and Earl goes out and gets the other belt and shows Joey Morella. At that moment, Razor pops up. He takes IRS off the second rope, hits him with the Razor's Edge, pins him, and retains the championship. This match gets 2.5 stars out of 4. I'm not a fan of the IRS gimmick, or really, I wasn't a fan of the Wall Street gimmick in WCW either. Mike Rotunda is a good wrestler. To his credit, he's a good talker. But the IRS and VK Wall Street gimmicks were not a thing. I did not like either one of them. This match gets 2.5 stars. Their styles work very together. We have Razor Ramon, Scott Hall, who's a street fighter, a brawler, and then we have Mike Rotunda, IRS, who is the catch-as-catch-can mat-based wrestler, and both of those styles work very well in this match together. Pretty good matchup by these two. Semi-main event, the World Wrestling Federation Championship on the line in a casket match. I don't hate the casket match, but I've never been that into the match type, especially because there haven't been very many in the history of the business. The casket match is not a match that you saw outside of the World Wrestling Federation, to my knowledge. Definitely not in WCW. And when you did, it didn't really work for a lot of people. It really only worked for The Undertaker, Kane to be involved in. And there weren't, and for that reason alone, there weren't very many that were in the history of the business even. Yokozuna, even though he was a big guy, was a good wrestler for his age and for his size. But he was getting towards the end of his career here, and he couldn't work as well as he used to. The story being told here is that Yokozuna is afraid of The Undertaker and afraid of the casket, and Paul Bearer is really hyping up that double-wide, double-tall casket for them to shove Yokozuna's carcass in and close the lid. Fun fact about this night is the debut of the casket cam. There's a spot where Yoko's in the casket, and you see a camera shot that shows his face inside the casket, like in a double screen, like they do for a replay. The lid's not shut, but there's a casket cam there. I think the thing that really drags this match down for me, it's not that good of a match anyway, I don't think, but what really hurts this match is, I kid you not, there are 9 people that help Yokozuna win this match. Not to mention the fact that Yokozuna is already accompanied by Mr. Fuji and Jim Cornette. They both get taken out early on, later on in the matchup, but then 9 people run in to help Yokozuna. That includes, let's see here, we have interference by Crush, the Great Kabuki, Generico Tenryu, whatever his name is, Bam Bam Bigelow, Adam Bomb, Double J Jeff Jarrett, Samu and Fat 2 of the Head Shrinkers, and Diesel. You're kidding me. 9 people get involved in this matchup to help Yoko win. Now, I understand that The Undertaker's supposed to be like undead, unstoppable, you're supposed to be afraid of him, but why does Yokozuna, a man who has been proven, he conquered Hulk Hogan on his own. I mean, he had some help from Mr. Fuji, but it didn't take him 9 people to beat Hogan to win the WWF title. You know, for a guy like Yokozuna to have been in the level in the main event that he was, I think that the way this match ends and that run-in really hurts him. Now, I know that, they were all endorsed by either Jim Cornette or Mr. Fuji or both, but why do 9 people need to get involved in a casket match before the finish happens? It was ridiculous. There was so much going on. It was a cluster, and The Undertaker was fighting and fighting, but he can only do so much. Even when Paul Bearer gets the urn back, it doesn't do any good. They eventually get the urn, take the lid off, and we see some kind of weird green smoke come emanating out of the urn, as if that's the power of The Undertaker. And you can tell because the farther that smoke comes out of the urn, the weaker The Undertaker gets in kayfabe. And eventually, there's a spot where, they all hit big moves. Jeff Jarrett hits the worst fist drop off the middle rope I've ever seen in my life on The Undertaker. It doesn't even look like he hits, but The Undertaker sells it anyway. After every man gets their power move in, they shove The Undertaker into the casket, close the lid. Yokozuna closes the lid. They close the lid, and Yokozuna retains the World Wrestling Federation Championship. This match gets 1.5 stars out of 4, and that's being generous. This was not a very good match. Yoko just couldn't work, at the pace he used to. He was starting to really slow down at this point in his career. And a man his size, he's booked at 568 pounds at the time of this show. He was a big guy. Even though Yoko was such a great wrestler, I think he needed a lot of help in this matchup just because of the way that he was working at the time. He couldn't work a match that was too long, which is why after he lost the WWF title, they made him a tag team wrestler so they could give him some career longevity. This is one of The Undertaker's weaker matches in his career, I would say. And, of course, this would lead to The Undertaker going on hiatus. We wouldn't see The Undertaker after this night until SummerSlam in August. After the match, there's a spot where the lights go off. You see The Undertaker's face appear on the screen while he's in the casket. And again, the casket cam returns. I love that thing. and the Undertaker looks like he's unconscious, and then all of a sudden his eyes open, and he's looking at the camera. He cuts his promo, and it goes dark, and you see like this shadow just ascend through the rafters and away, and the lights come back on, and that segment is over. That's that. Now we're moving on to the main event, the big one, the Royal Rumble matchup. Of course, this show is only known for one thing, and that is the finish of this Rumble match. I'll get to that in a minute. Starting off now, before I go any further, this Rumble was originally, as tradition, scheduled to be every 2 minutes people would enter, but Jack Tunney, the president of the World Wrestling Federation at the time, due to time constraints, limited it to a minute and a half. That's 90 seconds, which is the interval that we're comfortable with today. I'm not personally a fan of that interval. I prefer the traditional 2-minute format, but be that as it may, due to time constraints, they changed the format here. We start off with Scott Steiner at number 1 and Samu of the Head Shrinkers at number 2. 90 seconds later, at number 3, in comes Rick Steiner. There's a spot when Rick Steiner comes into the match where they tease that they're going to wrestle, but they team up on Samu. They go to eliminate him, and for whatever reason, Samu doesn't go over. Instead, there's a pretty scary spot where his head and neck get caught up in the ropes between the top and the second rope, and he's just hanging there by his neck. His body's limp. It looks terrible. It looks awful. I thought to myself, God, is he okay? And they eventually get him out of the ropes. He falls to the floor, and he's eliminated. Number 4 is Quang, the first of 3 replacements in this match. Quang was Ludwig Borga's replacement. I mentioned him earlier on in the night. He had an ankle injury. Now Quang is Savio Vega under a mask. He was managed by Harvey Whippleman. Number 5, we have the Rocket, Owen Hart, coming out to probably the biggest group of boos of the night. His stay in the Royal Rumble, unfortunately, would be short-lived. At number 6, we have Bart Gunn of the Smoking Guns, and at number 7, Diesel. Diesel would eliminate 7 men in this order, and he'd do so pretty quickly. He'd eliminate the first 4 men in 90 seconds. He'd eliminate 7 men in this particular order. First, he'd eliminate Bart Gunn, followed by Scott Steiner. Then he would eliminate the Rocket, Owen Hart. He'd go on to eliminate Quang. He would eliminate Billy Gunn, Virgil, and Bob Backlund. And of those 7 men, he eliminated Bob Backlund 5th, Billy Gunn 6th, and Virgil last. At number 8, we have Bob Backlund, as I mentioned earlier. He eliminated the first 4, and then Bob Backlund was in the ring for all of about 36 seconds before he was chucked out by Diesel. Billy Gunn at number 9, in the ring 37 seconds, tossed out by Diesel. Virgil at number 10, another replacement this night. He replaced Kamala. I don't know exactly why Kamala was not in the match. I guess he was replaced at the last minute. I'm not really sure. But Virgil's his replacement. The Macho Man Randy Savage comes in at number 11 to a thunderous ovation, and he would be the one that would stop Diesel's momentum. This would be the last Royal Rumble, not only of the Macho Man's career, but of his life. Everybody knows the story that the Macho Man would eventually jump over to WCW later in 1994. At number 12, we have Double J Jeff Jarrett, who we saw in the previous matchup, get involved. His stay would not be very long in the match. 13, we have Crush. 14, Doink, accompanied by Dink. And, of course, there were no managers at ringside for this match. They'd accompany their man down to the ringside and then leave. Number 15, right in the middle, we have Bam Bam Bigelow. Oh, I'm excited for this one. Bam Bam Bigelow's athletic. Number 16, Mabel, the soon-to-be King of the Ring, the following year. So number 17, Thurman Sparky Plug, or Hardcore, or Bob Holly, whatever you want to call him. He was the 3rd and final replacement in this match. He replaced a 1-2-3 kid who had a knee injury and could not compete. Shawn Michaels, the uncrowned Intercontinental Champion, at number 18. 19 is Mo, Mabel's partner, and both times when Mabel and Mo hit the ring, the crowd's, doing the wave. Whoop, there it is. Whoop, there it is. It's great. Number 20, we have Greg the Hammer Valentine. We have Greg the Hammer Valentine at number 20, and he comes into a surprisingly good ovation. He worked heel the majority of his career, and this crowd, it seems to be really into his appearance in this matchup. When Diesel was eliminated, I haven't mentioned this yet, when Diesel was eliminated, he's eliminated to cheers. And not the way you'd think. He gets eliminated. The crowd's not kind of dead when he gets eliminated, but when he's walking back, they cheer and they clap. And there's even a Diesel chant, which surprised me. It was pretty nice to hear that they acknowledged that Diesel had done such a good job in the match. I really appreciated hearing that. At number 21, Tatanka, the Native American. 22, we have the Great Kabuki, who I mentioned earlier. 23, one of the winners, Lex Luger. who eliminates the Great Kabuki in pretty quick fashion. Tenryu at number 24. And earlier on in the night, they cut the footage of backstage while Diesel's in the ring. They cut the footage backstage a little bit earlier on about Tenryu and Kabuki assaulting Bret Hart before the match. The story goes that Mr. Fuji hired both of them as mercenaries to try to prevent Bret Hart from getting to WrestleMania to challenge Yokozuna. Spoiler alert, it didn't work. At number 25, we have Bastion Booger, but he didn't show up. We're not sure why. Vince McMahon says that he was not feeling well, that he had been sick, or he had gotten sick before he came out, but that's not been confirmed. So we don't really know exactly what happened to Bastion Booger on this night. Number 26, the model Rick Martel, one of the original Iron Men. A couple of years before this, I believe it was 1991. He was in the ring for 52 minutes, I believe. And for a man of his age, especially even at that time and now, his stay in that Rumble was pretty impressive. At number 27, we have Mr. Lucky, the other co-winner of this night, Bret the Hitman Hart. At first, we don't think he's going to come out, and then all of a sudden, we see the curtain move, and Bret's limping out to the ring, really selling what happened to the leg earlier on in the night. The thunderous ovation, the crowd just erupts when he hits the ring. At number 28, we have Fatu, the other half of the Head Shrinkers, who does much better than his unfortunate partner from earlier on in the night. Number 29 is, oh boy, the other rocker, Marty Jannetty, and guess who he goes right after? You guessed it, Shawn Michaels. And at number 30, we have Adam Bomb. A pretty impressive spot for Adam Bomb to be in for a gimmick that was a joke for Brian Clark to play. He gets number 30 in this match. And if you want, a guy that's managed by Jim Cornette and Mr. Fuji to look like a monster, you make him number 30 in the Royal Rumble match. And Bret Hart and Lex Luger, as the match continues, they kind of take turns eliminating people. Bret Hart eliminates Tenryu when earlier on in the night, I mentioned Lex Luger eliminates Great Kabuki. It was it's a pretty good match from that point on. I don't think there's anything spectacular to talk about in this particular Rumble match. I've talked about everything that pretty much needs covered. We get down to the final 4 men in the ring, and the final 4, I believe, are Lex Luger, Bret the Hitman Hart, Shawn Michaels, and Fatu, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a spot, both men come running to them while both of them are in the corner back to the turnbuckle. Lex Luger eliminates Shawn Michaels with a backdrop over the turnbuckle to the floor, and Bret Hart does the same to Fatu on the opposite side of the ring. Then we have a face-off between the two of them. Lex Luger goes for a scoop slam, and he can't really hold him up, so Bret Hart it's kind of awkward. He falls to his feet. There's a struggle. He kind of ties to Lex Luger there, which is weird, and they both tumble over. Both at what seems to be at the same time, quote-unquote. And yeah, there's no official winner declared. You hear at first, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Royal Rumble. It's quiet. Then you hear Stars and Stripes Forever play. Lex Luger gets in the ring like he's celebrating. Bret Hart's pissed. He starts to walk to the back. And then a referee comes in and waves the decision off. Howard Finkel says, the winner of the 1994 Royal Rumble. And Bret Hart's music hits. Yes, he gets in the ring. He celebrates. No, they stop the music. Jack Tunney, the president, comes out. He's in the ring. It's a big cluster. Even the announcers don't know what's going on. Ted DiBiase says, wait a minute, McMahon, who won this thing? And, obviously, the Million Dollar Man, Ted DiBiase, leans more towards heels. So he's saying that he believes that Lex Luger had won the match, but Vince says he's not so sure. He thinks Bret won it. And they show you multiple replays, but all the replays they show you don't really show you anything of what had actually happened. They don't really help you see anything, and I think they do that on purpose because this match was scripted to be finished. This was the actual scripted finish to this match, a co-winner, which I think is a really dumb finish for a Rumble match to have. I don't rate this match very high. It gets 2 out of 4 stars, and that's being generous. I think that double finish, like Bret Hart and Lex Luger winning this match together, I think really hurts this match. You can't just have a clear winner of the Rumble match. Like, this happened again in 2005, but the time that happened, when it happened that time, it was accidental. The Batista Bomb was supposed to be the finish. Both men accidentally went over. This was the actual scripted finish to this match. Vince McMahon thought it would be a good idea to have his writing team script the match this way. And I'm not a fan of the finish to this match. But as the story goes, there wouldn't be a match to declare who would actually face Yokozuna. Instead, they would both face Yokozuna at WrestleMania 10, as declared by Jack Tunney later on in the year. There would be a coin flip at the start of WrestleMania to determine who would face him first and second. And, of course, Lex Luger would lose, obviously, and Bret Hart would eventually go on to win and become World Wrestling Federation champion yet again. So there is my review of the 1990 Rumble. Not a bad show, not a good show. In total, it gets 11 out of 20 stars. 4 stars possible for every match out of 5 stars. That's 11 out of 20 for a total. My final grade for the show is a C+. I really wanted to rate this a C, kind of a middle of the road, but I think the plus comes from the tag team title match, from the story that's being told all night between Bret Hart and Owen. I think it could have been graded higher if Owen had gotten involved and tried to cost Bret the Royal Rumble match. I think that would have been more effective. But even if he didn't do that, the impact of what he had done earlier on in the night really bumps this grade up to a C+ for me. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I stumbled around a little bit. I'm going to try to be better. Coming up next on my video series, I'm not supposed to work tomorrow, but if I decide to work, I'm still going to try to have it uploaded for you. Next, I'm going to be looking at WCW Super Brawl 1994. Until then, it's your boy Dingleberry saying, stay beautiful, stay you. I love you guys. I'm out.